The full moon illuminated the area like a bright lamp, giving off an eerie, uneasy feeling in an otherwise quiet night. The lively village folk were sound asleep, though restless in their dreams, wondering whether it was their turn to disappear into the darkness that night. Sibylla climbed into the watchtower, where she had a clear view of the entire village. The elusive three-headed monstrosity was often reported to come from the west side, somewhere from the nearby hill, so she diverted most of her attention in that direction. She took it as her duty to stand guard overnight, especially after her multiple failed attempts to track down and kill the creature in the wild. An hour or so passed by. Nothing. Sibylla felt anxious, conflicted between wishing the village folk no harm on one end and hoping for the monster to finally appear on the other. It didn't take long for her inner battle to resolve itself. A loud crashing noise, followed by chilling cries for help, came somewhere from the eastern end of the village. She turned around and witnessed mayhem in full force. The house on the village outskirts was already on fire. It has to be it, Sibylla thought to herself. She quickly slid down the roof onto the nearby tavern and descended towards the room window where her companions were sleeping. A quick glance inside revealed both of them already gone and the room doors wide open. Wasting no time herself, she jumped down on the edge of the nearby balcony and propelled herself onto the street. Upon landing, she quickly uttered the running incantation and bolted towards the fires. It took her mere seconds to get there. The scene confirmed her suspicions. A chimera, much larger than the one she saw a decade or so ago, absolutely trashed the burning building and killed the tenants inside. Her two companions, a devoted paladin and a feral druid, were tussling with the monstrosity, barely preventing its escape. Eyes firmly locked onto the target, Sibylla quickly pulled her trusty hand crossbow and started flinging bolts into the chimera's many heads. She was operating her unusual hand contraption with formidable speed and precision. It looked like some higher power was guiding the bolts around her companions and into the chimera's heads and body. The monster, as terrifying as it was, simply couldn't live through the barrage of hard-hitting missiles. The fatal bolt pierced deep inside through the eye of the lion's head, sending the creature's whole body onto the floor. Sibylla looked at her two companions with a troubled expression on her face. "Don't celebrate yet. We have a much bigger problem here." Alright everybody, Min-Max Munchkin again, back again with another video. Hopefully this one is going to be a little bit shorter, again with a thematic video again. This time we have a holy hunter, that's how I like to call it, at our hands. Obviously in the story we have it fighting this fancy fella. Yeah, that's about it. So again, if you like this type of content, if you like me doing thematic types of builds and all of these like imaginary stuff that I talk about in intros, like, share, comment, subscribe, you know the drill. It's not your first YouTube video, and if it is, well, good luck. You are going to get lost on this site for many hours, trust me. Anyway, so onto the build. Build is actually Holy Hunter, as we already told. It's going to be relying on feats. Primarily it's our Crossbow Expert feat, Sharpshooter feat. Archery fighting style, we are using ranged weapons. Extra attack, we are going to have basically three attacks per turn. Channel Divinity Guided Strike 2 times per short rest, which is going to be given from our War Cleric. And finally Magic Weapon Spell, which is going to increase our accuracy and slightly increase our damage output as well. Defining characteristics. This build is primarily focused around hand crossbows to maximize our damage output in synergy with the Crossbow Expert feat. Very high tier 1 and tier 2 damage output. Somewhat like even tier 3 damage output compared to most other builds out there. And finally at tier 4, this build is like, it has noticeably less damage output, but still, due to the fact it's going to be Very precise, very high attack bonus with all of these key features and spells. It's still going to be like a consistent and reliable damage per round, which is always going to be useful in like any type of combat situation. Some versatility in terms of secondary combat options, loadouts, however you want to call them, depending on your own gaming background. You will be able to use longbows sometime into your character progression, similarly as your hand crossbow. Basically, with your hand crossbow, you are going to have a free reign. You will be able to dish out 3 attacks per round. With your longbow, you're going to be somewhat limited in that 3rd attack, but still you will have that ability, although limited. Obviously, you have some spells from your cleric, namely Spiritual Weapon, which is like one of the best cleric combat spells out there. Some support, obviously a lot of support. Cleric has like healing, buffing, debuffing, whatever, right? So even like battlefield control and stuff like that, and like some summoning spells. Cleric doesn't have a lot compared to druids, but still like you can conjure celestials, so it's always good. Fairly high level spell, but always good. Unfortunately, due to the fact that we are going to be combining a ranger and a cleric, and we are going to be first 5 levels investing in ranger, your cleric spellcasting progression is going to be permanently slowed down, delayed. I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem for you, because during the first 2 or even 3 tiers you're going to be focusing on damage, and later in tier 4 like you're going to be fairly high level like in your cleric, that it's not going to matter too much anyway. So yeah, I mean, you're not going to reach 9th level spells, but until level 20 you're going to have access to 8th level spells with this build, which is going to be obviously a cleric spell. So yeah, really neat. Human variant, obviously +1 to dex and wisdom, 1 extra skill proficiency, 1 feat of your choice. The first one to take is, I think, Crossbow Expert. You can go the Sharpshooter route, but I think Crossbow Expert gives you more. It kind of gives you more consistency in terms of damage output. Your Sharpshooter, you're going to have like 1 attack. So yeah, I think Crossbow feat is really better at the beginning, because it gives you 2 attacks, which basically doubles your damage output right off the bat. So yeah, and it gives you 2 attacks, which kind of guarantees some damage every turn. It's like more guaranteed, like better odds of dealing some type of damage than just like 50-50 on a miss or a hit, right, with just a single attack. So yeah, that's that. Urban Bounty Hunter, I think that's the only background to take with this thematic build. Doesn't have to be actually urban. You can make your ear to the ground feature somewhat wilderness dependent. Ask your DM to work it around. I think this feature can be molded in a way to actually enable you to have like some kind of background feature that helps you in your wilderness quests and adventures and whatever. Insight and stealth, out of these 4, I think those make the most sense, because that's the only kind of sense that they make. Deception and persuasion go off of charisma, and your charisma is going to be your dump stat as your strength as well. So yeah, I don't think it makes sense. So the only 2 that do make sense, insight and stealth. Stealth is dexterity based skill, insight is wisdom based. So that's it. Sorry, I'm kind of like burping. Feats, obviously Crossbow Expert. Let's quickly go over those 2. Crossbow Expert, you ignore the loading quality, which basically means you can attack with your crossbows more than once per turn, because all crossbows have a loading quality, and due to the fact that they need to be loaded, you can't attack multiple times in a single round. So this feat just like enables you to ignore that. Being within 5 feet of the hostile creature doesn't impose disadvantage on your range attack rolls. Now, this sentence prompted me to actually research a bit more tonight, and I figured that the sentence actually is like, it says what it says. So range attack rolls, it's all kinds of attacks, weapon and spell. Now, granted, this build focuses on weapon attacks with the crossbow, But even if you have like some kind of spell that requires a ranged spell attack roll, this feat still works on that spell, which is kind of not intuitive at first. You would think that Crossbow Expert only works at crossbows, but no, it works on all weapon and spell attack rolls, range attack rolls, regardless of their quality and type. So yeah, this works on all ranged weapons and ranged spell attacks. So when you use the attack action, this is the most important feature of this feat in this type of build. Basically, when you use the attack action, you can use your bonus attack action to attack with the hand crossbow again. Now, due to the fact of the rules and how they interact with each other, all crossbows require ammunition and they are a loading weapon. So ammunition actually, in order to equip the ammunition, to put the ammunition into the weapon, your longbow, shortbow, crossbows, whatever, you need to have a free hand. So you cannot really you cannot hold any other weapon, you can't hold a shield if you want to use a hand crossbow, which is really a pity. I think having a character with two crossbows, which are loaded with like a contraption on your belt, which like auto loads the bolts into those two, or even like on your chest you can put some kind of like a device which auto loads the bolts into the crossbows. I mean, basically ask your DM if he or she will let you just like disregard that stupid rule, in my opinion. I mean, this is a fantasy world and we should be able to wield two crossbows if there's like magic that basically kills stuff if they have less than 100 health, right? So how hard it is to actually wield two crossbows and use them effectively. Anyway, not going to spend too much time on that. Moving on. A sharpshooter is going to give you basically nullify the disadvantage on long range, and your hand crossbow is you're going to be able to use it at 120 feet max. Your longbow obviously at 600 feet. So up until you get sharpshooter, you're kind of like limited on a 30 feet range distance with the hand crossbow, which is not going to matter that much in the beginning anyway, because you have very little health and all the monsters have like 5, 10, 15, maybe 20, 30 health, so you'll be able to kill them pretty quickly. Anyway, later on, as monsters get more HP and as they kind of like start dealing more damage, this feature comes really neatly, because you can increase the distance range between you and the monster you're attacking. Your ranged weapon attacks also ignore half cover and 3/4 cover, which is always good to have for those monsters that are engaged with some other creature in front of them, and that creature gives them half cover, or in some cases even 3/4 cover. So yeah, you just ignore that. And also, before you make the attack roll, attack with a ranged weapon that you're proficient in this case we are using a crossbow, you can take a -5 penalty to the attack roll, so you kind of like become less precise, less accurate. But if the attack hits, you add +10 flat increase to damage. So this feat is really broken. I mean, legitimately broken on lower levels. I mean, just the ability with the human variant to take this feat at the first level and then have the ability to potentially deal +10 damage on all of your attacks that hit is ridiculous. I mean, Sharpshooter and Great Weapon Master, those two feats like add a flat +10 bonus increase to damage. At low levels this is ridiculous. At higher levels it's not that impactful, because monsters get progressively more and more HP, and this feat obviously doesn't scale. It stays the same from level 1 to level 20. Still, at tier 1 and tier 3 and tier 2, even at tier 3 in some cases it's like ridiculous, especially with this build, because you have 3 attacks granted from your Crossbow Expert at level 5. So yeah, now moving on to the Ranger. Let's first cover Ranger, basic Ranger. So you get your favored enemy. You can pick one. I think thematically you should focus on what type of creatures you're going to choose as your favored enemies. Obviously, if you are fighting in a, for example, Storm King's Thunder, you can take Giants. If you are fighting in like Lost Mines of Phandelver, which is like a starter campaign for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, you can pick like 2 races of humanoids like orcs, gnolls, goblins, whatever. Ask your DM. I mean, if you have a good DM actually tells you what the overall scope of the campaign is. If you're kind of like, for example, if you want to play Cleric, and if there's actually legitimately not a single undead in a campaign, your Cleric is going to be legitimately, objectively less powerful than that Cleric would be normally in a campaign that features some, or very powerful in a campaign that features like a lot of undead. Because Cleric features like revolve primarily, like a lot of Cleric features revolve around undead. So yeah, I mean, that's it. So that's why you should like ask your DM what type of favored enemy you should choose. Like ask your DM, what are we going to be like, what this campaign is going to be about, and with that info pick your poison. Basically you have all of these here. That's a lot to choose from. And don't really glance over this feature because it's going to be useful later on, because you're going to be rolling those wisdom survival checks to track them, and you're going to be rolling those intelligence checks, probably nature in most cases, to recall information about those enemies that you are encountering. So yeah, don't disregard this feature. Natural Explorer, obviously you get the favored terrain, which is Arctic Coast, Desert, Forest, you pick one. As you level up you can pick more, but unfortunately we are going to be capping at 6th. We are going to cover additional progression later on, primarily due to these 2 features, depending on how useful they are in a campaign you're playing. So yeah, so choose one type of favorite terrain. Again, ask your DM, work with your DM what type of favorite terrain your particular character at level 1 has as a favorite terrain. Obviously, if you spent most of your life in a forest is going to be your favorite one. Arctic, obviously, your favorite. And again, if you're going to be playing in a campaign, like for example, Out of the Abyss, which is like an Underdark, most of the campaign is in the Underdark, and you pick a forest, like this feature is going to be useless to you. So ask your DM what campaign we are going to play in, and if the DM says yeah, we are going to be playing like Out of the Abyss, or a campaign, or like maybe we are going to be playing a campaign with like a desert, a lot of deserts and stuff like that, a lot of Arctic, like in a kind of like North Pole and stuff like that. Yeah, really cool. I'm not going to go into too many details on it because it gives just so many boons, so many little like features in this feature, like sub features. Some of these, like, you're bound to be able to use these features at some point in your campaign. Something out of this whole list is going to pop up and become useful in that particular situation. Now, moving on to the Monster Slayer, I think, which is like a Ranger archetype. So, if you think about it, Hunter, it would be the first archetype that would pop to mind. It's one of the like basic archetypes that was released in PHB, and this is a Holy Hunter, so you would naturally think, well, I would pick a Hunter. But like, if you think about it a bit further, if you explore some of the Xanatar's options, and that's what I did, I think Monster Slayer makes more sense thematically, because Monster Slayer is basically a sort of a reskin of Hunter. If you compare the features of Hunter and Monster Slayer is basically a laser-focused Hunter. A Hunter has like some kind of versatility in terms of your choices. For example, at every time you get one of these features, you have 3 choices. Monster Slayer gets only 1, and that's it. But for example, you get some additional spells, and these, like at 3rd and 5th level, if you're a ranger, these are going to be very useful. Now, obviously, Hunter's Sense. Hunter's Sense. Why did I? Yeah, okay. So Hunter's Sense is going to be really useful if you encounter like one huge monster that you actually like know that monster has at least some type of resistances, immunities, vulnerabilities, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, use your action, you find out what type of immunities, resistances, and vulnerabilities, if any, that monster creature has. And then you just tell your party, don't cast firebolt on magmins, because magmins are immune to fire. So yeah, I mean, this is going to be useful, trust me. And especially if you're playing, if you're one of the newer players and you really don't know the monsters that well, like you don't have that outside of the game knowledge, the system mastery knowledge, this feature is going to be very, very useful to you. This is why I think this is one of the most newbie-friendly ranger archetypes out there. Probably the most newbie-friendly subclass of all, due to the fact that you can just use your action and learn everything about a monster, and just use that information that you just learned with your action to like use appropriate types of weapons, damage types and stuff like that. So Slayer Spray, again, another third level feature which enables you to basically use a bonus action to have an increased damage output on subsequent turns. And this feature is not limited by anything. You can use it as many times or as few times as you want, and it's kind of like a poor man's substitute for Hunter's Mark. Hunter's Mark as a spell wastes a spell slot, and if you really want to conserve some spell slots for like healing spells and whatnot, this is going to be useful to you, albeit not that useful later on because it's a 1d6, not that much. Primeval Awareness, getting back to the Ranger's basic features. So Primeval Awareness is going to be useful as well, because you're going to be able, for 1 minute per spell slot, and which is going to synergize with your Cleric's full caster spell slot progression a little bit. You're going to be able to sense the presence of these types of creatures within 1 mile, or within 6 miles if you're in your favorite terrain. Again, choose your favorite terrain wisely, because the Primeval Awareness actually works with Natural Explorer features. Those two like complement each other. Nothing else to say. The feature doesn't reveal the creature's location or number, it just detects the presence. Always useful to have. Level 4 ability score increase and level 5 extra attack. Those two are pretty important. So getting back to the Cleric, going forward to the Cleric, you get bonus proficiencies, martial weapons and heavy armor. Not that useful, but not useful at all. You're not going to be using heavy armor, and you already have proficiency feature you get. So use it or lose it, doesn't matter. War Priest, useful if using longbow. Why? Because now when you use the attack action, you can make 1 weapon attack as a bonus action, limited by your wisdom modifier, which is right off the bat +3 right here. So now not only you can use your hand crossbow as a bonus action, like unlimited number of times, now you can, for like 3 or 4 times per day, use your longbow for a 3rd attack during your turn. Which, trust me, a lot of fights, a lot of like critical fights happen like last for 3 to 5 rounds, and having a longbow in one of those fights, like with like different types of terrain and monsters, and like sometimes you really don't want to be close to the monster, it can come in handy. So yeah, this feature really kind of like buffs your longbow. Now you can use your longbow as well, like almost the same as your hand crossbow. Moving on to the Channel Divinity Guided Strike. This is your bread and butter. This is going to be your bread and butter. Basically, at level 7 onward, you become de facto a build that almost never misses. Obviously, if you roll a 1 on a D20, that's an automatic miss regardless of your bonus to attack. But for any other number, for example, if you roll a 2. So if you roll a 2 and you have like +9 from your, or maybe just +8 from your attack bonus, so you use your Sharpshooter feat, and that's like -5, so that's like +3 now. So that's like 5. 2 + 3 is 5. But now you use your Channel Divinity Guided Strike, which adds 10 to that. and now that 5 becomes 15, and that 15 actually hits a lot of monsters. It's not going to hit everything, but a lot of monsters are in a range of 14 to 15 AC armor class, and you're going to hit those monsters solely with this Channel Divinity. And if you don't know, Cleric's Channel Divinity is a short rest mechanic, and at 2nd level you get a basic one, a Turn Undead. All clerics get this one, which is you can sort of like frighten the undead around you. Again, that's why clerics are really good in undead campaigns, for example, Curse of Strahd and stuff like that. But it's not going to be that useful to you. The main one is Guided Strike. The important part of the Channel Divinity feature of the cleric is the fact that at 6th level they get one additional use of their Channel Divinity per short rest. So every time you short rest, you get 2 Channel Divinities back, and you can use like 2 between short rests, which is ridiculous. You basically at 6th level, at 11th level of your character, at this particular character, you de facto become a I can't miss machine. So all of your attacks are pretty much going to land, and yeah, more on that even further. So Turn Undead, you have that, but not that useful. This 3 ability score increases, obviously at level 4, 8, 12. So Destroy Undead, another feature which works with your Turn Undead. All undead which are of a challenge rating of those listed on the table, depending on your cleric level, they get instantly destroyed if you cast your Turn Undead Channel Divinity. So if you get surrounded by a bunch of skeletons and zombies, you just use your Turn Undead Channel Divinity, and starting from 5th level, all of those skeletons and zombies get instantly evaporated into nothingness. So yeah, just like this feature alone, in the campaigns that have a lot of undead, ridiculous. At 6th level, you gain a 3rd Channel Divinity option, which is going to be War God's Blessing. Basically, you're not only going to be able to give yourself plus 10 to bonus to your attack rolls, you're going to be able to give your allies, companions, party members also plus 10 to bonus to the roll, which is, trust me, going to be very useful if, for example, you have an assassin who you know missed his or her attack, and you give her or her plus 10 to the attack roll, and all of their hits are crits, and now that assassin deals like 100 and 150 damage, maybe even more. So yeah, this is a very good thing to have in a party. Trust me. So Destroy Undead, basically as you level up, it reaches up to challenge rating 3, so all undead of that challenge rating or lower, you're going to be able to destroy them with your Turn Undead Channel Divinity. Divine Strike, obviously at 8th level you increase your damage, at 14th level you increase your damage a bit more. All clerics get this feature, it's just flavorfully different, like some clerics get fire damage, some clerics get like radiant damage. This one just like a flat weapon type damage increase. That's it, that's basically all we need as well. At 10th level, clerics get Divine Intervention. One of the I've never actually played a 10th level cleric. I've only played with the one in a party, and somehow he or she, I mean he, my friend, never got to use it. I think this feature, depending on your DM again, is kind of, I went into a bit more detail in my cleric overview, cleric's class overview. It's like it's kind of like broken, not too much. It's kind of bit too powerful in my opinion. It's kind of like a 10th level poor man's wish. You kind of like wish for your deity, for your deity, however it's pronounced, for the godly power that gives you those spells, you know. So you wish for that thing or whatever to just do something you cannot do on your own. And if the DM allows you, that happens. Or maybe the DM won't allow you to happen how you want it to happen, but that's basically a wish spell, like in a bit more limited manner, because those deities are not omnipotent. It's not like Jesus Christ, like it's like a D&D deities. So they, for example, you are a War Cleric, so you're pretty much you're a worshipper of some kind of war god. So you can wish for your war god to come down and kill the monster in front of you that killed all of your party members, and you're the only one that survived. Yeah, and like your war god comes and kills the monster, and if you succeed on the damage on that like percentage roll, that happens. So yeah, you get this at the 10th level. Basically, the higher your level, the better your odds. So at 15th level, if you're cleric, you'll have a 15% chance of your deity, however, to intervene in your whatever you want to do. That's very powerful. Anyway, moving on to the spells, a lot of material to cover there. First of all, cantrips. Obviously, you are going to be able to get cantrips from level 6 onward. Guidance, obviously one of the best non-combat cleric cantrips, and cantrips in general. Light, you need light. You don't have dark vision as a human, so you need light. Sacred Flame is kind of like, it's like you don't need it, but why not have it, because it's one additional type of damage, and in rare cases you might need this particular type of damage. For example, if you come across a monster that's vulnerable to radiant type of damage, now all of a sudden your damage rolls become basically crits, and your crits deal like 4 times damage. So yeah, pick it, it won't hurt. Spare the Dying, obviously, as the name says, you're a cleric, so you're kind of expected to keep your party members alive. Finally, I would take Mending, just in case you have a prick DM. Trust me, I've had this situation who decides that on a roll of 1 your bow breaks. So yeah, you need Mending. I've actually played in a campaign where we roll like a girl that played some kind of archer. Her bow broke on a natural 1 on a d20 because the DM decided to do so. And I know that DM is going to watch this video sooner or later because he's my best friend. So yeah, fuck you. Anyway, moving on to the level 1 spells. Obviously, first of all, we are going to have Ranger as the first 5 levels. You get protection from evil and good from your monster slayer, so you get this one like always, doesn't matter. Hunter's Mark, the best low level ranger spell. Even like tier 2, you will sometimes be relying on this spell because it's going to give you so much for so little investment that it's pretty much ridiculous. If you don't know what it is, now you will, because you can pause the screen and read the spell yourself. Basically a slight damage increase and advantage on perception and survival checks, which kind of like, if you're fighting some types of monsters that are elusive, slippery, this can come in handy too. Absorb elements or Long Strider. Now I would personally thematically pick Long Strider because it gives you 10 additional movement speed, and it kind of, every hunter wants to be faster, to be able to reach their prey faster, and to be able to avoid the situation where their prey is faster than them. So Long Strider thematically fits perfectly. Unfortunately, not a lot of situations are going to require you to actually use this spell. So maybe if you are more concerned about usefulness of the spell instead of the thematic fit, Absorb Elements makes more sense, because every time you take these types of damages, you can half the damage of that, half the damage you receive, and be able to output some of that damage back to the thing that hit you with that type of damage. Depending on your spell slot, the damage, volume of the damage, the number of the damage you're going to output is going to be lower or higher, depending on that. Now, Cleric Spell. Now, let's first go over the level 2. Obviously, you get Zone of Truth from your Monster Slayer Ranger archetype. You always have this one learned. Pass Without Trace is one of the best second level spells, period, for a ranger, and in this type of build it's almost like a perfect, it's not almost, it's a perfect thematic build. It's perfect mechanically because it gives you +10 to stealth checks, and your stealth is already going to be like +11 on level 20 and like +6, 7 or 8 on like lower levels. So this is going to be very useful to you in sneaking up to your enemies, sneaking up to your prey. So yeah, that's it. I would still take dark vision, because sometimes in a darkness you really don't want to cast light and reveal your position. In that situation, dark vision is going to help you, especially because it lasts 8 hours and you have like a basic 60 feet dark vision. And due to the fact that you're going to be heavily investing in cleric later on, you won't really have to worry about spell slots that much. I mean, second level spell slot at higher levels is basically nothing to you. So yeah, I would take dark vision. Now moving on to the cleric spells. Now a lot of cleric spells that are good in general are going to be good for you as well. And I mean, some of the spells are kind of like a bit higher on your priority list than some others, but yeah, basically that's it. So from your ranger, I mean your War Cleric, you get, let me just click quickly onto it, you get, wow, I can't click. So yeah, you get Divine Favor, Shield of Faith. If you don't know what those two are, now you do. This is cool, but I mean, you have Hunter's Mark, so this is strictly worse because Hunter's Mark already gives you 1d6, and it gives you additional like perception and survival bonuses on checks. So yeah, neat use if, for example, if you're fighting a monster that's vulnerable to radiant damage again, but I don't know, it doesn't scale well, not very good. So yeah, that's it. Shield of Faith, again another non-scalable spell which can come in handy in some situations, but in most cases you are pretty much better off casting some of these other first level spells. So yeah, you have these for free, but they're not very useful to you. Now what is useful to you is Bless. Let me go to the Cleric Spell list, because it's one of the most useful cleric and first level spells in general in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, because even if you don't cast Hunter's Mark, you can always cast Bless and give yourself and your allies a d4 on all of your attack rolls and saving throws, which is one of the most ridiculous spell effects in the game, like at all. So Healing Word, you're going to be primarily engaging in distance, like in ranged combat. You're going to be using your hand crossbows, even longbows. So having a Healing Word is pretty much better than Cure Wounds, because you're pretty much never going to be on the front lines and really close to your allies to be able to cast Cure Wounds on them. So yeah, pick Healing Word. The additional two I would take is Detect Magic, because kind of makes sense a little bit thematically, and Detect Magic is one of the best divination first level spells and divination spells in general to have, and due to the fact that you're a cleric you can cast it as a ritual. So yeah, command, always good to be able to command the creature you're fighting to like drop their weapon or just like stop and do nothing. So yeah, and even like it scales with levels, so you can affect more creatures as you level up. It's always good. So that's for cleric. First level. Second level, obviously we get magic weapon. We get magic weapon for free from the cleric, obviously, and magic and spiritual weapon. Both of those are good. In this particular case, magic weapon is better than spiritual weapon, because magic weapon gives you an increase to your attack rolls, and we need all the increase to attack rolls we can get, because we are using our sharpshooter feat to... We rely on sharpshooter feat for our damage, and as we all know, sharpshooter feat gives you a penalty to your attack rolls, so magic weapon directly negates that penalty. Obviously, as you use higher level spell slots, the bonus to damage and attack rolls increases. At 4th and 5th level, it's a +2. At the 6th level slot or higher, it's a +3. Basically, if you cast magic weapon as a 6th level spell, +3 on top of the +2 you get from your archery fighting style, from your ranger feature, Basically these two are +5 and they directly negate Sharpshooter's -5. So you basically have no penalty on the Sharpshooter feat, and you have a +10 damage on all of your damage rolls. And on top of that you have your Channel Divinity, which gives you additional +10 bonus to your attack rolls 2 times per short rest. I mean, this is just ridiculous. Again, this is not the... In theory, this build cannot deal as much damage as some other builds, but trust me, this build is going to hit a lot. It's not going to miss. So, that said, moving on to the ability... more other spells. So, yeah, Aid, the best spell. The best cleric spell, probably like at 2nd level. That's why it's red. Hold Person, not going to be that useful to you, but still take it because it's paralyzed and all hits are crits. All melee hits are crits, and all attacks have advantage. So yeah, always good to have. Prayer of Healing is a healing spell. It's a 2nd level healing, which is like really nice. You kind of need to have some healing, so this one is really good. Level 3 you get Crusader's Mantle and Spirit Guardians. Now, Crusader's Mantle is not going to be that useful to you because you have other spells to concentrate on. But Spirit Guardians is going to be useful in many situations where you really want to focus more on the defensive than on the offensive. For example, if you get surrounded and you cast this spell, they all have to make wisdom saving throws and take 3d8 radiant damage or necrotic depending on your alignment, which is actually a lot of damage, so it stacks up pretty high. And it is a concentration, but it kind of like lasts for 10 minutes, so if you manage to maintain the concentration, it can like deal a lot of damage with just a single 3rd level spell. So yeah, not that good on this particular build, but still good enough to have, and you get it for free, so why not. The other 3 spells I would consider preparing for this type of cleric is a Dispel Magic, Revivify, obviously you want to be able to revive your teammates, and Beacon of Hope, which is going to maximize your healing, all the healing you get from all types of healing features and abilities in-game. Dispel Magic pretty much self-explanatory. You are able to negate some of the spells that are in effect. Obviously, the higher the level spell, the higher the level spells that you will need to spend. Otherwise, you need to roll a DC 10 plus spells level ability check. Moving on to the 4th level, Freedom of Movement, Stone Skin. In this particular build, those two are not that useful. Freedom of Movement is going to be always useful in some cases, regardless of your build, but it's just like one additional key in your bag of keys. So yeah, Stone Skin gives you like ability to be resistant to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. Unfortunately, by the time you get to 4th level spells, you're already like level 13, I think. So at that point, being resistant to non-magical physical damage is not that useful. On the other hand, having banishment is really good. It kind of fits thematically perfectly because you can basically banish a creature to other plane of existence. And it also mechanically works really well as well, because it only lasts for 1 minute, and if after that minute the target doesn't return, it doesn't return at all. So yeah, this is a really good spell, that's why I made it red. Guardian of Faith, I don't know which one else to choose, so I chose this one. You can choose like any other. I think this one makes the most sense, because if you're resting and you're kind of like in the wilderness, you put some like guardian spirit above you and it lasts for 8 hours. It kind of like protects you. So yeah, kind of makes sense. Where are my cleric spells? I closed them. Why? Okay, so there's that 5th level. 5th level is where you get your Hold Monster. Now, I think Hold Monster is much better than Hold Person, because you can affect any creature, not just humanoids, with this spell. Still, I don't think it's that good in this particular build, because you primarily want to concentrate on your magic weapon or your other like lower level concentration spells. Still, having Hold Monster is a good thing to have with any build, because sometimes you just need to paralyze a creature and kill it as fast as possible before it kills you. And yeah, you're always able to have that. So Flame Strike, I mean, it's just like some kind of AoE, but it's, yeah, I mean, it's always good to have some type of AoE, but thematically doesn't fit very well, but you have it for free, so yeah, why not? So yeah, that's Scrying and Great Restoration. I think at 5th level, any kind of cleric needs to have some kind of utility and party help. Obviously, Raise Dead, ability to raise your dead party members from like dead, so yeah, revive them. Mass Cure Wounds, self-explanatory. You're able to like cast Cure Wounds in a wide radius and affect multiple creatures. And Commune, due to the fact it's a ritual spell, I think that's like why you need to take it. You don't have to, but I think it's really good because it's a 5th level divination. You can ask your deity up to 3 yes or no questions, and you can cast it without wasting your spell slot. So yeah, you should at least consider having it prepared, at least in some situations where you don't know what to do. Level 6 True Seeing thematically fits perfectly, because if you are hunting invisible creatures, you need to be able to somehow perceive them. So yeah, you have True Sight, all with a range of 120 feet. You can notice secret doors hidden by magic. You can see into the ethereal plane as well. So yeah, I mean, this spell is really good thematically, and I also think mechanically it makes sense, especially because it doesn't require concentration. It is a fairly high level spell, but it lasts for 1 hour, so in that critical moments where you need a fix for the situation, which is like dire or even deadly, this spell can help. In other words, if you get attacked by invisible stalker, trust me, if you have a monster manual, check that thing. It's very, very scary. So yeah, heal, and Forbidden's heal is like you can heal your ally for flat 70 hit points. Forbidden's yeah, kind of makes sense thematically, but it's very, very situational, so I don't know. Pick it if you want situationally, if not, like Hero's Feast, Harm, Find a Path, even Create Undead, maybe, if you want to create like ghouls and mummies to help you. Yeah, a lot of these spells are good. Level 7, I would think the only spell that you kind of need to have prepared almost at all times is Conjure Celestial, because you can create Quotals, Unicorns, which are like... Quotal is, I think, Unicorn is like a legendary creatures with legendary actions, and Quotal is really good on its own. I'm not going to spend time on those. I think I actually explained this spell in a bit more detail in my Cleric Spell video, which if I remember to do, I'll put in the right corner. If not, check my channel. It's there's like a Cleric Spell list overview, which you can check for yourself. Moving on to the, obviously, Regenerate, Resurrection, one of these two, and Plane Shift. I think by the time you get to this level, if you ever get to this level, some type of planar travel magic is almost mandatory to have in a party. And yeah, especially like if you encounter monsters that just like hop from one plane to another, yeah, you need this spell. And even like without that, it's always good to be able to just like move to the elemental plane and kill all the elementals there. So yeah, level 8, final level of the spells that you're going to be able to reach with your Cleric. Anti-magic field, almost a must-have, and the other one is a Holy Aura, because it kind of, yeah, it's a concentration, but it gives you like a 30 feet radius, and other creatures have disadvantage on attack rolls against the creatures that you choose within the radius. So obviously, if you like get surrounded by a shit ton of monsters, you give all of them disadvantage on all saving throws. So yeah, you just like all the castings of magics and stuff can benefit from this spell. Yeah, I think it's good. So yeah, let's move over the progression. Obviously, first 5 levels we are going in Ranger, the rest in Cleric. Obviously, this is the sequence of feats and features and spells, important spells that you get access to. So obviously we finish with extra attack and pass without trace with our Ranger. First level Crossbow feat, favored enemy, Hunter's Mark. Second level Archery fighting style. Third level, well, not Colossal Slayer, basically the Hunter Spray and Slayer's. What was the name? Quickly. Hunter's Sense and Slayer Spray. Those two. So yeah, Hunter's Sense, Slayer Spray. Primeval Awareness, obviously at level 3 as well. Sharpshooter at level 4, extra attack and pass without trace at level 5. Now at level 6 you get first level obviously of Cleric, you get Bless spell, which at level 6 is not that useful, but it's still useful to have. It's still useful enough to have as like a backup alternative type of spell to concentrate on instead of on a magic weapon. Now War Priest gives you 3 longbow attacks basically, because you can use your longbow as a bonus action attack 3 times per day based on your wisdom ability modifier. At the second level, basically at the 7th level of your character, you get Channel Divinity Guided Strike, your bread and butter, like your primary ability to avoid missing like a lot of your attacks. Also you get a basic stock Turn Undead Channel Divinity. You can use those two once time per short rest. At level 3, basically at level 8 of your character, you get access to your magic weapon spell, which is your most important spell to concentrate on, and that's why I made it like all of these 3. So you also get aid spell, spiritual weapon spell. Spiritual weapon is going to be useful because it deals force type of damage, and in some cases some monsters are probably going to be vulnerable to force type, and this spell like scales with as you level up as well. So at level 9 you get Dex like ability score increase. Further on you get Destroy Undead. Channel Divinity also at level 11 you get additional option, War God's Blessing, which enables your allies to have +10. Also all of your Channel Divinities, you have 2 uses per short rest starting from level 11. Divine Strike at level I think, yeah, 13. It's a +1d8. I forgot to put that here. So yeah, 1d8, and Dexterity +2 at level, what's it like, a level, yeah, it's like level 13 as well. Destroy Undead furthermore. Divine Intervention at level 15. Destroy Undead even more, like it scales up as you level up. Finally, Wisdom +2 at level, what's it like, level 12, and then yeah, level 17. So Destroy Undead finally, and Anti-Magic Field spell at level 20. That's basically how you progress in this class. Now alternatively, what you can do, which I didn't actually list here, but we are quickly going to go over it. If you remember, we mentioned favored enemy and Natural Explorer increasing, giving you 1 additional option at level 6. What you can do, instead of going Cleric 15, is going Cleric 14 and Ranger 6. In order to get access to additional favored terrain type and additional favored enemy. Now, I don't think personally at these levels, like level 19, 20, having 1 additional favored terrain and enemy is going to matter too much to you, because I think 8th level spells are much more impactful than having those. But just in case you're, for example, playing in a campaign that won't go as high as level 17, 18, 20, maybe you want to put your Ranger to level 6 to be able to have 1 additional favored enemy and favored terrain, instead of like potential 8th level spells. It's going to delay your spellcasting progression even more by 1 level, but still it's an option to have in mind, and it's an option, it's a viable option. With that said, this video is over. Unfortunately, it lasted for 1 hour again. I guess I can't talk little. I gotta talk too much. So I'm going to stop it now. Yeah, if you like this video as a whole, if you like this type of build, this particular build, like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell button, you know what to do. And for all of you that are wishing me to do the padlock slash hexadin type of build, trust me, I'm working on it slowly, every day a little bit, kind of thinking about it. I'm going to do it soon. It's actually not that easy because, yeah, I mean, I guess you know the reasons why you asked me to do it instead of you. So yeah, with that said, MinMax Munchkin out, and see you soon.